Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And he used to say, "Hey, Greg Morgan," and he used to say, "Please call me Greg," and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the pow.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Merry New Year! It's Happy New Year. In this country, we say Happy New Year. Ha 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 ha! Thank you for correcting my English, which stinks. I am Greg Morgan, exchange student from San Diego. Ha 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 ha! Beef jerky time. You want some beef jerky? There's plenty, you know. What's up, guys? Happy New Year to you. Welcome to the final Winged Eagle podcast of 2022. Greg Morgan with you. To close out the year, we had a heck of a night last night on SmackDown, so we are here to give ourselves a nice 90-minute, maybe a 2-hour podcast maximum to talk about kind of an interesting week, even though it was also a slow week in wrestling, given it was the holiday and the new year, and we are in what I like to call the holiday taint. It's that spot between Christmas and New Year's Day, and not a lot was going on this week because we had the Raw recap show on Monday, but pretty kick-ass Dynamite and a crazy SmackDown last night on Fox, which gives us plenty to talk about. We also have a couple of big shows coming up on the horizon next week with a big Monday Night Raw, a big AEW Dynamite, and Wrestle Kingdom. The week after that, another big Dynamite in LA at the Forum on January 11th. That's another big show. And then we are into Royal Rumble season, and then it's WrestleMania season. So if you've really felt like there hasn't been much going on in the last couple of weeks in wrestling, buckle up, because it should be a crazy beginning to 2023, and we're going to be here to talk about it. We're going to talk about Charlotte's big win last night. We're going to talk about John Cena's return. We're going to talk about Uncle Howdy. We're going to talk about the FTR podcast, last week's Dynamite, this coming week's Dynamite, Dynamite in 2 weeks. We got a lot to get into, plus Royal Rumble speculation, WrestleMania speculation, who the hell is Uncle Howdy, and all that kind of stuff we're going to be doing today ahead of New Year's Day. Hello to everybody that was in here in the chat waiting for us. I'm not sure what you guys have planned on this Saturday. Sorry, I've got like a cat here in my line of sight and it's driving me crazy. But it is New Year's Eve, and it is early in the afternoon here on the West Coast, only 2:30 p.m. I've got a big night scheduled at work tonight, even though it's actually threatening to rain here in San Diego, which really might suck for us. But I got a big night scheduled tonight, but I still thought there was going to be time to come up here and do a podcast before we close out the year. Tomorrow is New Year's Day, Sunday. Normally on Sundays, when it's not a holiday or not a pay-per-view, we're up here watching classic WWE or WCW pay-per-views together on Peacock. We didn't do it last week because it was Christmas, and we're not going to do it tomorrow either because it's New Year's Day and I have family plans. But to make up for that, this coming Monday in 2 days, January 2nd, Monday Night Raw, WWE is stacking up a pretty good card. We've got Austin Theory and Seth Rollins and Bianca Belair defending her title against Alexa Bliss. So I decided we're going to come up and do a live reaction, a watch-along of this coming Monday's Monday Night Raw to make up for us not being here tomorrow for a classic watch-along. So the link to Raw's live reaction is already on my channel. I forgot to put a link in the description, but it's already up on my channel right under the latest content tab. Save that for Monday and come hang out with us on Monday night and ring in the new year with a brand new Monday Night Raw, and a Raw that I'm hoping is going to be really good, because in about 2 weeks, we're going to be hitting the 30-year anniversary of Monday Night Raw. As a matter of fact, I will be spending the 30-year anniversary of Raw at Dynamite on January 11th in the Forum. Scored lower level row 2 seats for that show, and I am psyched to see what is likely going to be the AEW debut of Mercedes Moné, and it's going to be pretty damn awesome. So it's going to be kind of a casual podcast today. We don't have, a lot of crazy stuff to get into, and my notes are relatively light, so we're going to kind of kick it today and just do it the old Good Mic Work style and just have a nice, chilled, relaxing exit out of 2022 and into 2023. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat, all the family members and all the subscribers that are hanging out here already. Good to see Jay Lambo and Zane G. Sean Swaby in the house. We've got Nicola. We got Ben Espinoza, Ian Dunn in the house, and Luke McAllister, a couple of channel family members in right off the bat, along with Jimmy Anderson. Let me hit Luke with his very generous super chat there. What's up, Greg? Less than 90 minutes away from the new year here in Scotland. Really cool to see Charlotte Flair return with a new theme song. We will be getting into all that. Charlotte, of course, has her new theme, which is fine. I guess she could probably use an upgrade, but I haven't been able to determine if I like it more or not. So maybe you guys can help me with that. But Happy New Year to you. It's going to be 2023 for you way before it's going to be 2023 for any of us here in the States, and that's awesome. So let me know how the future is. Hopefully 2023 is cool. You're going to experience it first. So Happy New Year to you, my friend. It is about 10:30 p.m., so you are 8 hours ahead of me. 5 hours ahead of the East Coast. That's crazy, man. Happy New Year to you, Luke, and thanks for being here. Jimmy Anderson, same to you, man. You are only 30 minutes away from 2023 hitting you in Sweden. I hope you are having a good time, dude. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy when it's your turn. Greetings to you all. Yes, Happy New Year right now to Luke and Jimmy, who are about to ring it in as we speak in the next hour or so, and the rest of us have to wait a little bit longer to get the hell out of this year, which took away from us Don West and Barbara Walters on the last fucking day. So, yeah, good riddance to 2022. That's for sure. JL, good to see you. Good to see Trip, Vash Starwind, Clyde, Wendell Slater in the house. What's going on, my friend? Deshaun Robinson, Happy New Year to you, my friend, and Zach and Isaac. and Tatanani. Good to see all of the channel members in here. By the way, Tatanani, your My Dog Sami Zayn t-shirt says it's on its way. Pro Wrestling Tees sent me the email, said it has been shipped a few days ago. Have not gotten it yet. As soon as I do, I'll drop it in the mail to you and to JJ. You guys are the ones that won the My Dog Sami Zayn t-shirts, with all proceeds going to Sammy for Syria. And as soon as I get those in my hands, they will be dropped in the mail to you immediately. But apparently, they should be here anytime now. Good to see Antoine in the house as well. Hassan, Mr. All Days Off. Anybody else chiming in and saying hello in the chat? Good to see you. Please do me a big favor and smash that thumbs up button as hard as you possibly can. And if you're not a subscriber, please make sure you become one. This is a fun channel to be at, and we got all sorts of cool things going on here. So that pretty much should do it for the pleasantries. Let me give some shout outs here to the Patreon members and the channel members, and let you guys know what's coming up here in the next couple of days. I'll let you know that there will be no watch along, of course, tomorrow because it's New Year's Day, but we will be here for Monday Night Raw watch along on Monday, and most likely I'll be up here with no issue on Wednesday for Dynamite as well. And we are going to be we're going to be doing a long overdue Q&A, big Q&A video coming to the channel. We're going to do that Royal Rumble weekend, which means you have plenty of time to submit your questions. All questions for this Q&A need to be submitted by email. That's the easiest way for me to keep track of all of these. So you can send your questions to goodmicwork@gmail.com in terms of whatever you want to ask me as far as wrestling goes. Now, if you are a channel member, you're going to get a separate way to basically ask your questions. I'm going to put up a post on YouTube for members only. So if you're a member of the family, you're going to get your own separate YouTube post private for you guys where you can ask your questions right there. That way I can keep the members separate from everybody else. So if you're a non-member, send your questions to goodmicwork@gmail. If you're a member, just wait for that YouTube post to arrive and nail me with your questions down there, and we'll do a big video on Royal Rumble weekend along with all of the Royal Rumble Classic watch-alongs we'll have planned every week in January. We're going to start 1 week from tomorrow with a Royal Rumble to watch. I just got to decide which one that's going to be. Lots of good recommendations, lots of them that I want to knock out. I'll pick the best one that we've talked about recently, and we're going to do that 1 week from tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Also, I want to cruise over to the channel members and say hello and thank all of the current channel members on the YouTube page. We are inching closer to 100 members. Would love to get there soon. So if you would like to join, you can do so by clicking the join button below, or there is a link in the description that'll take you over there to the joining and membership tiers as well. But thank you, big thank you to all of the family members: Kevin and Red Raven Rucker, Ramon Coffey, MJ Parker, Danny Almark, Ruben Litton, Foxstar Killer, Chaz Medeiros, Juliet, Brandon Collier, Ray Frand, Alan Carter, Ian Joe Dunn, Randall Yates, Deshaun Robinson, Zach Palgett, NG Dre, Sean 2018, Jordan Karg, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, welcome to the States, my friend, now living in Denver, Michael Tong, Longboard, Sam Pibone, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Klavlovic, Spider, ARX, Alex, Zach H, Chris Miner, Jamie, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Jason, Spaz Phoenix, Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane G, Chris Barrera, Casey, John J.E. Dennett, Tatanani, Nick Musser, Kevin, Max Pokebra, Spectra, K-Dogs Kennel, Kevin, what's up, man? Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Stephen Taylor, Population 420, and the OG JJ Leg. Thank you again, guys, for being members and being a part of this great family here on YouTube. I could not do this without you. I could also not do it without the subscribers and supporters on the Patreon page, which are Ramon Coffey, brand new member, actually. Thank you for joining, Ramon. Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, and Blake Moran. Thanks, as always, everyone, for all of your support on not only the YouTube memberships, but the Patreon page as well, because you really help get the bills paid on this channel, and I appreciate it with all my heart. I think that does it for the shout-outs there. We talked about the Q&A. We talked about Monday's Raw reaction. And I think we are ready to start getting into the wrestling news. I think so. think I want to open up this podcast today by paying our respects and offering condolences to the family of Don West. Don West, longtime TNA ring announcer, has been battling brain lymphoma for the last couple of years now, and we knew it was going to be kind of a terminal situation. Don remained positive through all of this. I remember when we first heard about this story a couple of years ago, that I think he was even in remission for a while, or possibly, and it came back. He struggled with this for a while, and unfortunately, brain lymphoma did take his life at the age of 59, I believe, on Thursday, correct? And as a guy who never really watched a lot of TNA, I've openly said that time and time again. I was not a big TNA fan, didn't watch a lot of them, but I watched enough of them to be well aware of how important Don West was to their identity, to their history. His voice is synonymous with a lot of their biggest moments in that company, the Elix Skipper, Cage, Rana, and all that stuff. Don West was different, and his pairing with Mike Tenay was really good for TNA, because one of the things I've always preached about wrestling companies who are trying to compete with Vince or WWE is try not to be like them. Try to offer the fans something different, an alternative. And even though I didn't really love TNA a lot, at least at first, they definitely were giving us an alternative product. They had the six-sided ring and a much better athletic type of style with the X Division and some of the innovative things that they were doing. It wasn't until later where I felt like they got caught up in the competition and then just tried to be a better version of WWE, which you're never going to be able to compete with that. Your best option for success is to give the fans something different than what we're seeing from Vince. And when you combined TNA's early days, the ring, the X Division, and the announcers, Don West's incredible energy, the dude would scream at you for the entire 2 hours. You know, you could never say that he wasn't, he was phoning episodes in, because he certainly was not. And he really helped, I think, tell the stories in TNA. And we think to a lot of people who are big TNA fans and watched it as kids or watched it as they grew up, Don West is going to be a big part. It's going to be the same thing with them as it is for WWE fans and Jim Ross in terms of the great TNA moments you think of in your head. You can usually hear Don West screaming in your ear in the background because he was the one there calling all that stuff. He was very important to who they were. And I think that's awesome that they didn't just try to bring in a Shivani or bring in a Lawler or somebody like that. They had Mike Tenay, who was a good play-by-play guy from WCW, who did a great job there. A lot of people were surprised that Tenay was never brought into WWE, you know, but then you pair him with somebody so high energy like Don West, it really was a great fit. And it's one thing that I think TNA did really well. They had a great commentary team. They weren't for everybody, but they definitely gave TNA its own identity and its own vibe, and it did not feel like you were watching a copycat version of WWE, at least when those two were at the helm. So it's a sad death. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, as a lot of Don's friends were referencing and pointing out on social media when they were sending their love and their well wishes, is that now his pain is over. His cancer is over. His suffering is over. And we can all relate to this stuff. All of us, I'm sure, have had friends, family members, close family members that have been sick or have died from cancer. It's a fucked up disease, and it affects each and every single one of us. It even affects our pets. My boy, little Bub, who most of you know, of course, Paps passed away from lymphoma as well. But even with people, everybody goes through this. You've all lost an uncle, a parent, a brother, a grandmother, or something to this horrific disease. And when the person is finally relieved of this pain and suffering, there is a big part of you that is relieved. My uncle died of liver cancer in 2015, and he was in really bad shape. And when my dad went to go see him, went to go visit his brother, and he came home, he goes, "I just want my brother to die. He just looks terrible, and he's miserable." And he even gave me this look like, when is this disease just going to take me already? And it's heartbreaking to see them in that condition. So, from that aspect, you try to, have a sense of inner peace with that and know that at least Mr. West is no longer suffering. And all the best and condolences to his family and anybody who knew him, because the outpouring of love, as is the case with everybody who passes away, but this was a really interesting and overwhelming kind of outpouring for Don. A lot of people really, really liked him, and he was important. He was very important to a certain block in wrestling history, and one specific company, TNA, kind of being that voice of the company is, at least something we can always remember Don West for. So rest in peace to Don West. Very sad death that we had to experience. But as wrestling fans, kind of used to this by now. You know what I mean? Anyway, we'll move on to the next order of business. Sasha Banks. I guess we should stop calling her Sasha Banks. This will probably be one of the last times I ever refer to her as Sasha Banks. We've been calling her Sasha Banks all during her absence through WWE because we don't really know what else to call her. Even if she leaves WWE, we didn't really know what her name is going to be whenever she resurfaces somewhere else. But we might know now, because Sasha Banks, ahead of her January 4th appearance at Wrestle Kingdom, has filed a trademark for Mercedes Moné. A lot of fans have been tossing around ideas for what her name could be. A lot of people have figured that she could use Moné as a name kind of similar to Banks, Money, Monet, whatever. Of course, her real name is Mercedes Bernardo, I believe, which she goes by on social media. But it sounds like if she's going to return to the ring, it's going to be, or when she returns to the ring, she's going to be known as Mercedes Moné. And when you think about the timing of this, it's really interesting that this trademark was filed. I mean, I still think there's got to be an approval process here, but that implies to me that's the name she's going to be using when she appears. So when she appears at Wrestle Kingdom, most likely to confront or possibly challenge Kyrie after we expect her to retain her IWGP Women's Championship, maybe challenge her there. And then, of course, in 2 weeks in LA, where I'm going to be at the Forum for Dynamite, Saraya has a mystery partner to take on Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. And a lot of people are pointing to Mercedes. It's got to be her. At this point, I even believe it is, because if she's not contractually tied to WWE and she's working for New Japan, and there's a mystery partner, and it's Saraya, given their history, LA, big show. Apparently, Turner Network execs are going to be in the house for this thing as well. If it's not going to be Sasha, or it's not going to be Mercedes, AEW needs to do what WWE did for Survivor Series when it was in Boston. Announce who the partner is ahead of time, because everybody in Boston had WWE not announced. Who the hell even was it? I forgot. It was Emma or whatever. I forgot who they brought back. But if they hadn't announced that entire Boston crowd would have been expecting Sasha Banks to come out. So same thing with January 11th. AEW, I just believe it's going to be Mercedes. It has to be her, because if it wasn't her, AEW would need to announce that ahead of time. Because imagine when CM Punk came back in the United Center and the entire world knew that it was going to be CM Punk, but we never really got confirmation of it. So imagine if that sold out United Center crowd is chanting CM Punk and fucking Bo Dallas walks out there or something. Fans are like, what the hell? So I think that it's definitely going to be Mercedes if I had to guess on January 11th. But if it is not, I think it's in AEW's best interest to pre-announce who the partner is going to be, because if that audience, and I'm going to be there, is expecting Sasha Banks and it's not her, they're going to boo, I think. So don't put yourself in that position. Announce it ahead of time, but since they're not announcing it ahead of time, they've even released a match graphic for that match on January 11th, which shows a silhouette next to Paige. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't just judge the silhouette. Maybe you can. I mean, it definitely doesn't look like anybody I recognize, and I could totally see Sasha or Mercedes taking some promo pictures to send over to AEW so they can blacken it out and superimpose it on the match graphic. It's not a given that it's just some random generic wrestler. Not at all. Same thing with Uncle Howdy. I think a lot of times when you're trying to conceal the identity of someone, you can use pretty much anybody as a stand-in. But when these people are now getting in the ring hitting Sister Abigail's and shit like that, that's why I think whoever is under that mask is actually going to be the person to play Uncle Howdy, where before, when he was just standing on the stage, it could have been anybody. And with this match graphic with Saraya, I think that it's Banks. I think it's Mercedes. I think she's sent in a photo and that's going to be revealed that that's her in that silhouette. So that's my prediction for Mercedes Moné. And in terms of her Wrestle Kingdom appearance, since she's not going to be wrestling and she's only being advertised, or not even advertised at this point, only being rumored for an appearance, putting, two and two together, there's really only one thing for her to do. She's not going to go out there and, fucking challenge Will Ospreay or anything. She's going to be targeting Kyrie. So she'll probably challenge her. That match will be made down the line in in New Japan, and then Sasha will be allowed to then come into AEW and work with them too. Who knows what else she's going to do? She might even go down to AAA just for S&Gs. You never know with this one. So we'll keep our eye on Sasha/Mercedes, but I think it's a done deal. She's going to be at that January 11th Forum show. By the way, if you're going to be in LA for that Dynamite, hit me up. We'll meet up for a cold one. Some sad news to report regarding AJ Styles. Homeboy has been injured. Very rare injury for AJ Styles. Broke his ankle at a house show in Hershey, Pennsylvania a couple days ago. There were some fans tweeting videos and pictures of that event with him being attended to by the ringside physicians, and it did look like he was hurt, and it was something foot-related. AJ provided an update via Twitter that said, and I quote, "Just want you guys to know that I'm okay. Broken ankle is what I'm dealing with. No surgery. This just takes some time to recover. This will be the longest I've ever been out of the ring. Thanks for the prayers and get well wishes." AJ Styles, a man who is my age, 45 years old. This will be the longest he's been out. Jericho is a lot like that too. These two guys have avoided serious injury. And AJ, it's both incredible that they've avoided injury considering the styles that they wrestle, but AJ especially, who has always had a crazy, very athletic style and very high-risk style. I'm sure he's had a few injuries and tweaks before, but he's never been out of the ring for any sort of extended period. And a broken ankle, I'm actually surprised that he doesn't need surgery. I thought a broken ankle almost usually automatically needed surgery. I was under the impression. So if he doesn't need surgery and it just needs to heal, it's still going to take a while for a broken ankle to heal because it's your ankle. It's what you put all your weight on. So AJ will probably miss WrestleMania, and that's a shame. But hopefully by then, I don't know how ankles work. I just don't think 3 months is enough time for him to come back from that. But if surgery is not required, maybe it's a light fracture and it can heal in that amount of time. But hopefully they can get AJ involved in some way in WrestleMania. Even if he can't wrestle, he can be there. Throw him on guest commentary or something, just give him something to do. He's too big of a star. He's too, got too big of a name and a Hall of Fame name just to leave him completely off the card, especially when he's, approaching the end of his career. And finally, this dude is starting to look his age when he's in the ring. Finally starting to show some age. I'm allowed to say that because I'm the same age. I'm also old as shit. So it's not a knock on AJ, just like I'm going to be giving John Cena shit for his bald spot. But hey, look at me. I can't throw stones. But anyway, best of luck to AJ Styles. Hopefully he gets back on his feet as quickly as possible. Luckily, at least right now, he's not involved in any sort of serious angle that's going to have to cause them to really, redo any sort of writing or storylines or anything. But still, you don't like to see this happen to a talent like AJ. So best of luck to Mr. Styles. And I guess this is a good one. Why don't we move on to the FTR podcast next? Dax Harwood has launched his new FTR podcast, had his first episode a couple of days ago, and the very first topic to be discussed, CM Punk. Of course, CM Punk. Now, Dax, should be noted here, is very good friends with CM Punk. Even in this podcast, I believe he claimed that CM Punk is his best friend. Now, one problem I automatically see here right off the bat without knowing too much about their relationship, I think of other CM Punk relationships. And Dax Harwood has got a podcast where he's going to be saying things, where he's going to be talking. This entire first episode was about CM Punk. CM Punk has ended lifelong friendships and relationships over comments that he did not like, or over somebody, even if it was innocent and no harm was meant by it, he has gotten very pissed off about people talking about him or saying something that isn't true or whatever. And we've seen lots of relationships crumble because of that, with Colt Cabana, with Hornswoggle. Whatever happened to the road wife and road marriage that CM Punk and Kofi Kingston had? I haven't heard anything about their relationship in a long time. Did that one crumble as well? Kofi used to ride on CM Punk's bus. They were the best of friends. We don't really hear much about that relationship anymore. So one can only assume that maybe that one crumbled as well. So if Dax wants to remain friends with CM Punk forever, best of luck to him. Just be careful what you say, I guess, because you never know what can trigger Phil. But this was, I didn't listen to everything, but I read a couple of transcripts, and Dax Harwood did claim that CM Punk didn't really want the AEW title. Tony Khan was really kind of hell-bent and keen on giving it to him because it could really, help the company and put a big name on their championship and whatnot, but Punk kind of begrudgingly took the title, according to Dax Harwood, which I don't believe for a second. I think in Punk's very first couple of weeks, he was doing the belt motion in some of his matches and stuff, so it looked like Punk was there to challenge for the title. Maybe Punk, in his mind, didn't want the title, just wanted a challenge for it and put somebody over. That's possible, but Dax claims that Punk didn't really want the belt, but took it because that's what Tony Khan wanted. He kind of gives his account as well, his perspective from All Out. Basically said he was out of the building by all this time, by the time all this happened. After his match, they had some drinks and then they went back to the hotel, and that's when he got a FaceTime from CM Punk, and Punk told him his side of the story about what happened. And they basically just talked mostly about, Punk's career and things like that. But Dax, went on to say that he believes that all parties here should be able to work things out, and he hopes and wishes that CM Punk will come back to AEW. There was even an Instagram post where, Punk commented, duh, when somebody suggested working everything out with the Elite and CM Punk. But we've also heard, I believe this came from Meltzer, I didn't have the source here written down, I am sorry, but there were some rumblings and reports that Chris Jericho, among other top stars in AEW, have been telling talent that they will make sure that CM Punk does not come back to the company. So it sounds like that even if things are able to be worked out here, even if there are some interested parties, because CM Punk has not been released or has not negotiated successfully anyway an AEW contract buyout from what we understand. So that's still all lingering. So we don't really know what that means. Tony Khan refuses to talk about it. He was on, did an interview with the Grapsody Boys a couple days ago, and of course they asked him what everybody has to ask him, what's going on with CM Punk, and Khan says he really just cannot talk about it. So I kind of think of it from Tony's perspective, well, maybe I'll just string Punk along here. I mean, maybe we can work something out in 2023 as Punk gets closer to being healed. Maybe more and more cooler heads prevail. Maybe the attitude and the tone and the temperature in the locker room changes a little bit, and people are a little bit more open to doing business again because of how much money can be made here. And that's all very true. And that's one thing that I agree with everybody on who says Punk needs to come back. Punk needs to work things out with the Elite, and they need to make some money here. And that's true, because you can make a ton of money with a storyline like this. And storylines that have reality sewn into them are always the best. And it's just like in wrestling, the best heels are the ones who are right, the ones who actually are kind of right. The best movies, if you want to write a good movie, how you do that is make every character right. And when you do that, you can really make magic. So when you think about the fans' opinions of this situation, you have a lot of people that firmly believe, I'm one of them, that there is no forgiving and no coming back from what CM Punk did. That was too far. That was way too far. It does not matter what Hangman Page did. It does not matter what Hangman Page started it. It doesn't matter. I don't care if Hangman Page took his pants down and pissed in Larry's face. It does not matter. You cannot do what CM Punk did at that scrum, period. Does not matter what he was mad about. He crossed the line. You can't come back from that. But you also have a lot of people with the opposite opinion of me. A lot of people who believe that the Elite are to blame. Now, a lot of times these opinions are generally based on who these people already like or don't like, and the Elite already has heat with that really gross part of the wrestling audience, so naturally they're going to think it's all the Elite's fault every time. The logical person who can kind of look at both sides and doesn't have a dog in the fight can say, no, what CM Punk did was fucked up. You can't come back from that. But you do have two specific sides here, and that's when you realize how much money could be made, because you have a good portion of the audience that thinks that CM Punk never needs to come back, and you have a good portion of the audience that thinks the Elite is the cause of everything. So if all of these parties were to come back together, and you would have to think that at some point, one of these people, like one of the members of the Elite, when they're out drinking or having a good time or just feeling a little saucy or something, might just be like, you know what, I'm going to shoot my shot. Text CM Punk, hey man, would love to talk if you're interested, and just start it with that. And then Punk can either say no, fuck off, or he can say, yeah, I'll be willing to listen. We can talk. Great, man. Let's get together in a couple days, or let's touch base in a couple days. We'll plan something. I can't see any of these professionals not doing that at some point, not coming to the realization of, holy shit, there's money to be made here. Let's see if we can work something out. So, even if that were to happen, I don't know. We've heard the reports of, locker room members saying they don't want CM Punk back. There's a lot of hurdles to overcome there. Not only would the Elite and Punk have to be willing to work together, Tony Khan would have to be willing to take that chance, and he would have to sell the locker room who would have pushback. Because when you hear things like they're going to make sure that CM Punk doesn't come back, well, how do you do that? How do you make sure? How does Jericho make sure CM Punk doesn't come back? He has no authority in that. That's going to be Tony Khan's call. The only way Jericho can make sure that CM Punk doesn't come back is if he tells Tony Khan, if you bring him back, I'm leaving, or I'm tendering my resignation, or whatever. And if he gets a lot of other talent to say the same thing, hey, if you bring Punk back, you're going to lose me, Moxley, and Danielson. Then Tony Khan might say, I can't bring Punk back. That might be what that means here. So even if all parties are willing to make some money, it would be great if that could make it to TV. But, as a fan, I don't even know if I trust that. Based on what I saw from CM Punk and based on what we've seen from CM Punk in the past and his unpredictable behavior and his tendency to lash out and freak out and explode, even if he's cool at first, how would you trust that he would remain cool? This is a guy that took 8 years off from the business. He should come back completely refreshed, as happy as ever. He really did seem to be. He really did seem to be delighted to be in AEW, spoke highly of them, loved the talent there, was ready to give it his all, be back in the business. He seemed genuinely happy, and I was genuinely happy for him. But look at how quick it changed. Well, Hangman Page said something. Oh, fine. So what? Hangman Page went into business for himself. That's a phrase that everybody likes to say now, all of a sudden. So even if that was true, it doesn't matter. But a lot of people still think that had it not been for that, Punk wouldn't have done what he did. But was what Hangman Page did enough to turn Punk's great attitude into a shitty one, like overnight? Granted, it wasn't overnight. It was a lot of little things that happened. But those are little things in wrestling that CM Punk should be used to. I think that CM Punk generally in his life has probably had to deal with fucked up shit in the locker room, or stuff that he didn't like, or people rubbing him the wrong way, or politics, or anything like that. I'm sure he experienced just as bad, if not worse, in WWE, but he's just specifically mad at the Elite for some reason, or pushing false narratives, or whatever he was pissed about. He took it way, way too far than anyone should take it. So even though to us as fans, we're all saying the same thing, how can these guys not come together and make some money? I think the issue is a lot deeper with that than that. And there's a lot of talent in the locker room that doesn't want his presence in there. So Tony Khan might be doing, he might be, this might be a strategy on his part, just to say, I'm just going to not answer any questions about it. I'm going to keep paying CM Punk and just try to hold off as long as I can and give this issue, this situation, as much time to blow over as possible. And then if we can revisit things, you got FTR and CM Punk, they could come back on the January 11th show right after the Elite beat the Death Triangle in match number 7 and win the trios titles. They're celebrating and they're attacked from behind by FTR and CM Punk. Trust me, I would love nothing more than to see that happen. Although Punk is injured, he's probably not ready to rock and roll yet. But if something like that were to happen, I'd be the first one to mark out for it. But you have to think about how many hurdles and obstacles need to be overcome to make that happen. And it sounds like not only do you have to get the talent to agree with this, the Elite and Punk to agree, which is going to be a very tall order, you're going to have to get the locker room to go along with it and be who is in, repair mode right now. Locker room has been on the mend. They've been trying to keep things professional and morale as high as possible in AEW. And from what we've heard, things have gotten a lot better since Double or Nothing. So again, is that something you're willing to risk, for this storyline that, yes, could make a lot of money, but would it make enough money to justify what the damage you could potentially do internally to your company talent-wise? So that's a lot of questions and things that Tony Khan has to ponder. And frankly, it's just shit that wrestling fans aren't capable of understanding. So yes, it seems obvious. Oh, why can't they work together? It's because there's more to it than that. There's more to than what we're just thinking or what we're just seeing. You have to think about all these different variables, all these different things from legal perspectives and morale perspectives and that sort of thing, and what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, who you're going to put over and whatnot. All these things have to be figured out before anything can happen between these two in a storyline. And I think as wrestling fans, it would be fun to watch the train wreck unfold, because I am highly skeptical that this would work out. Even if they did come together and Tony Khan was willing to do it, he sold the locker room on it, he brought CM Punk in, and they work a program with the Elite or something, who's to say that all of the problems aren't just going to resurface again? Brett and Shawn were never able to figure it out. Brett and Shawn, if you remember, during that whole saga of their tumultuous relationship heading into the screw job, they had multiple instances where they made up, where they had a conversation, they put the past behind him, and they would still, just a couple of weeks after that, Brett's pulling all of Shawn's hair out, and then they come back together again. They have another, kiss and make up moment. And then Brett gets screwed at Survivor Series. So even if everybody is like, okay, let's work together, I'm not sold for a minute that that's a situation that would remain stable. Based on everything we've already seen, CM Punk has proven that anything can really set him off. So who's to say that won't happen again? Who's to say Nick and Matt won't be pricks or something like that, or rub Punk the wrong way again, or Punk will change his mind? Yeah, he'll be all into it one day, but then when he gets to the arena on the day of the show, all of a sudden he's got a different attitude and he's grumpy or what. Who knows what could happen? All I'm saying is I'm skeptical that you could even do it at this point, even though I think it's going to go down in wrestling history as one of the biggest missed opportunities. But that's not going to be anybody's fault. Don't blame Tony Khan for this. If CM Punk isn't able to come back, that's not Tony Khan's fault. That's CM Punk's fault. CM Punk is the one that did what he did, that rebelled the locker room against him, where you have the other top stars in the company saying, I don't want his ass back here. Fuck Phil. So it's really, you have to think about it from so many different perspectives. And I think I stand, where I've always stood, and I believe that CM Punk can't come back, won't come back. But I also wish that he would. I just think it's highly, highly unlikely, regardless of what Dax Harwood says on his podcast. But we'll see what they go with on their next episode. But Dax is going to be talking a lot on this podcast, and I'm going to try to listen to as many of these episodes as I can. Best of luck to him on that. Big time signing coming into WWE. Dragon Lee has signed with WWE. This kind of relates to the FTR news, because just a couple of days ago, FTR lost the AAA tag team titles to Dralistico and Dragon Lee. And then just a couple of days later, it was reported that Dragon Lee has signed with WWE. That's a big, big signing for them, because we already know what he can do. He's already been featured in AEW. There's kind of a bidding war going on for him. And he's set to start in NXT in January. And his situation is really interesting because, number one, he just beat FTR, and he's technically one half of the AAA tag team champions. But AAA does not seem to give a shit. They let their belts just wander off sometimes. So if WWE isn't going to allow Dragon Lee to go back there and drop those titles at any point, they can probably just put Roosh in his place, and he can team with his bro, and they can drop the titles then. I don't know. But Dragon Lee has signed with WWE. Reportedly, according to the latest Observer, he's going to be the highest paid NXT star. This is a big time signing for them. And the Observer was reporting that the decision for Dragon Lee to sign with WWE over AEW was because AEW was so overloaded with talent, and his fear was that he could get lost in the shuffle. And how crazy is that? That's the same reason that I've always felt a lot of talent should leave WWE sometimes, because they will get lost in the shuffle. But AEW has shown that they have a big lost in the shuffle problem too, because they have such limited TV time. And when WWE decided to release 90% of its fucking roster in 2020, it opened up a whole lot of free agents, almost too much that the company could handle. But when a guy like Keith Lee is available, you don't not sign him. You sign him. So, bringing in some of these guys was an absolute must, but you're still operating on 3 hours of live TV every week. So that's a limited amount of time, and a limited amount of time for you to get exposure and to build your brand and your name. So in a very rare, turn of events, WWE is now sounding like the better place for you to be if you don't want to get lost in the shuffle. Because if you are in NXT, they're going to feature you. They're going to use you probably almost every single week, and this is probably just to get his foot in the door, adapt to the WWE style and some of the personalities there and whatever else they need to do with him before putting him up to the main roster. But I can't imagine Dragon Lee's going to spend a ton of time in NXT. Hopefully enough time for us to get a Dragon Lee and Carmelo Hayes match. That would be awesome. But that's a big signing for them, and that's interesting that talent is now starting to see WWE as the better spot in terms of getting exposure, where that was a big problem for WWE back in the day, but seems like it's a bigger problem for AEW right now because we do go weeks without seeing specific talent because their TV is not set up this way, for everybody to be featured. And part of that, the fans are right. Sometimes you're like, where the hell is so-and-so? He was hot. He was white hot, and then you had him off TV for 3 weeks. What the fuck? But at the same time, I think a lot of fans have been programmed to expect what they get from WWE. And WWE, years ago, you did not see every star every week. It wasn't until Raw went to 2 hours, Raw went to 3 hours, and you started seeing the top talent featured every single week in some sort of a segment. And now, in modern times, even if a lower level or a mid-tier talent isn't on the show, like let's say Ricochet doesn't have a match and he's nowhere to be seen on SmackDown, people are going to be like, where the hell was Ricochet tonight? Because we're used to seeing everybody. WWE usually tries to get as many of its stars on TV as possible, as long as they're, in some, especially the ones that are in any sort of ongoing feud. Now, if there's any sort of ongoing angle or feud in WWE, you see that feud furthered on TV every single week unless there's an injury. And even if there is an injury or something has tripped up the feud, you show a video package or a recap or a highlight or something like that. And we've been so used to seeing that when somebody is not on the show, you recognize it and say, hey, where was so-and-so tonight? Where back in the day, you didn't need an explanation. Sometimes that person just wasn't on the fucking show. And in AEW, it's kind of the same way. I don't mind it if I don't see somebody every week. I don't need to see Danielson have a match every week. I'm fine if he doesn't. But I also I'm not going to be freaking out if he's not on the show. Well, where was Danielson tonight? And so I think a lot of that is still WWE's influence, their style of TV over the past 15 plus years now, 20 years, has been to feature every single person and every single storyline every week, because they do have an abundance of TV time to do that. AEW has less TV time, and so they're not as organized as that in terms of making sure that every single angle and issue is getting time to progress on TV. Sometimes they have to make cuts or not feature people or not feature them at all. And then sometimes it'll hit us that, holy shit, 3 or 4 weeks have gone by and we have not seen Hikaru Shida or another big part of the men's or women's roster. And that can be weird. And that takes some time to get used to, especially in modern times, the way the business moves. You need to see these people every week. I always thought there was an overexposure problem with featuring talent every week in WWE, and I was fine. I did not need to see Cena and everybody else every single week on TV because I was used to not seeing them every day when I was a kid. When I was a kid and just had an hour of Superstars and Challenge, and then an hour of 6 of TV on TBS or something on Saturdays, sometimes 2, you wouldn't see everybody there either, and it was just the norm. It was just the way it was. I remember during Honky Tonk Man's run, he was Intercontinental Champion for a year and a half. I went 2 or 3 months without seeing him on Superstars. It's just the way it happens. But now you can't get away with that type of stuff. And when talent is starting to think about places to sign, now they can really weigh the pros and cons of both companies, because what's a pro for one guy might be a con for another. You know what I mean? And that's what's great about having competition in AEW and WWE competing for talent, is that it's going to be a case-by-case basis. It depends on what talent it is the free agent, depending on where they're going to go. WWE might be a better option for this person, but AEW might be a better option for this person, and this will hopefully start landing people in places that's best for them, where before it was WWE just released a bunch of people, they need jobs, so AEW signed everybody, and then a lot of those people, when they got there, realized they wanted to leave. So hopefully WWE won't do any more mass releases like this, and if there is free agents, they're able to really gauge each offer and look at both companies and determine which is best for them. And I love that talent is going to find themselves in a position, especially highly sought after talent, who's going to be able to have bidding wars and things like that on them, like we might see with MJF in a couple of years. So I think that's great. Congrats to Dragon Lee on his WWE signing. Sounds like he'll be hitting the NXT ring any day in 2023, and we should see him doing great things there. That's pretty cool. I'm going to save this last piece of news here for when we talk about John Cena in a minute. But before we get into last night's SmackDown and we talk about Charlotte's big win, I want to cruise back over here to the chat and see what you guys are saying in here. Could really use some thumbs ups. If you guys don't mind, hit that thumbs up button for me as we close out 2022. New Year's Eve, thumbs up. Pros and cons or pros and cons? I like that. Tony Khan, Nick Khan. So many cons up in here. Uncle Howdy is Edge. I don't think Uncle Howdy is Edge. I did see that floating around. Oh, it looks like Edge. I don't think it's Edge. It'd be cool if it was Edge, but why would it be Edge? Why would it be Edge? I don't know what else Edge is going to do. I'm not sure. Naomi, Becky, I can't remember what I was talking about there. Yeah, Regina, rest in peace, Don West. Good to see everybody else in here. Max Pokebra, good to see you. Sam, That Deal, Stephen Harris, Justin Owens, Regina, JL, Matt R, Danny HR Vlogs. Who else have I missed in the last half an hour or so? Spectra, good to see my family member of 4 months up in here. What's up, shoot brother? 4 months of membership already. I can't believe it's been that long. Holy shit, brother. Haven't seen any wrestling this week, but I've heard Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown were all good. Stay safe, brother, and Happy New Year. Yeah, it was a good week of wrestling despite everything. Now, Raw had their year in review show, which was nothing. I did watch a little bit of it, but it was not much. They did pull in over 1 million viewers, though. 1.1 million they pulled in the rating, which beat Dynamite. They had 870,000. But yeah, still good despite it being, like I said, the holiday taint in between Christmas and New Year's. LOL, you don't even watch NXT, mate. Yeah, I don't watch NXT, but I know that they exist. So why can't I talk about NXT, or why can't I talk about Dragon League going there? He'll be used. He'll be featured every week. I don't have to watch it to know what they do there. Doesn't work for me, sister Charlotte. I love that. Good to see you, Vash Starwind. Also, Senior Wilson, Xavier Martinez, Mohammed chiming in as well. Transferring heat in the house. Gilbert. Anybody else that I missed? Happy New Year to all. Let's talk about last night, man. SmackDown. Last night on Fox saw some really interesting news. Now, this show was headlined by John Cena returning to the ring in a tag team match, teaming up with Kevin Owens to take on the Bloodline. That match would be in the main event. But prior to that, we had a big shocker on SmackDown. We had a SmackDown Women's Championship match. Ronda Rousey defending against Raquel Rodriguez in a pretty good match. Raquel, of course, had her arm injured previously by Rousey, so she was going into this thing not quite 100%. Pretty good match as well. One of Rousey's best since her championship win over Liv Morgan months back. Really brutal match. And Raquel gave Rousey a heck of a fight, but Rousey wound up getting the win and retaining the title. And after the match, she's in the ring with Shayna Baszler. She's about to cut a promo. As soon as she starts talking, we hear the woo, and it's Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair comes down the aisle. She's debuting brand new music, which I couldn't quite get a read on. I couldn't quite tell how it sounded. A lot of fans thought it sounded okay. I'm fine with new music for her. I think it was probably time. She's been using that music for a while. Sounds like they just spiced up or maybe did a remix of the theme she already had. Not sure if I'm right about that or not. And I'm not really sure if I like it or not. What I need to do is find a clean version of it on YouTube, listen to it, see if I like it. I can't tell yet. But she comes out with brand new music. Fans are shitting themselves. The Queen looks good. She gets in the ring. And Ronda says, oh, I know why you're here. I know why you're here. She goes, you're here to challenge me for a shot at my title at SummerSlam. And then she goes, oh, wait a minute, a Royal Rumble, because that's Sumer. So I can't get on Ronda's case for bumbling up a promo right after a grueling match. Sometimes I can't even get my words out on a fucking podcast. But still, how boring and terrible can this woman be on the microphone? I mean, she has got nothing to offer. She's got the charisma of a baked fucking potato. She's terrible. Everything she says is so cringy. She can't speak. She has no presence or commandness in her voice at all. It's just mumbling nonsense. She's so awful. She's so fucking awful on a scale almost impossible to parody. It's that bad. And so she mumbles out some nonsense to Charlotte about SummerSlam and then the Royal Rumble. And then Charlotte goes, oh no, I'm not here to challenge you at the Royal Rumble. I'm here to challenge you right now. So Ronda seems into it. Shayna's trying to back her off. No, don't do it. Don't do it on Charlotte's time. You call the shots here. You're the champ. And Ronda's ego gets the best of her. She goes, yeah, she lays the belt down, says, let's do it right now. And we have an impromptu SmackDown Women's Championship match. Bell rings, and it is Charlotte Flair against Ronda Rousey. Charlotte immediately hits Ronda with the big boot, covers her. They kind of did a false finish here. You thought it was going to be that quick where she would win the title that fast, but Ronda kicks out. So that gave the fans a big sigh there. Ronda immediately locks in the armbar on Charlotte, but Charlotte is able to roll through it and cradle up Ronda Rousey for the 3 count and catch a quick victory over Ronda and win the SmackDown Women's Championship on her first night back, just like that. Some things never change in WWE. WWE and their love affair with Charlotte is pretty fucking hilarious. This, however, though, I got to say a couple things about this. Number one, Charlotte has never been booked under the Triple H regime. She got injured by Ronda before Triple H took over. So it's going to be really interesting here to see how she's booked by Triple H. And before you get ahead of yourself and say, oh, same old WWE, same old shit, think about this for a minute. She came in as the babyface here. Triple H is not stupid. Triple H knows that if I'm going to bring Charlotte in as a babyface, I can't do what Vince did and pretend that the fans don't give a shit about her. I can't John Cena this girl and just put her out there regardless of how many people are booing her and still have her cut babyface promos. I need to approach this differently. So she was a babyface last night. That doesn't mean she's going to stay one. But if Triple H wanted that initial babyface reaction for her, if he wanted fans to cheer the idea of Charlotte winning the championship, the best way and the way to maximize your fan reaction to that is to do it on the first night she returns. Because when she comes back, when anybody returns, even if you're hated, look at Triple H in 2002. Mother effer blew the roof off of Madison Square Garden in his return in January. Monday is the 22-year anniversary of that. Blew the roof off of MSG. No, wait, 21-year anniversary. Blew the roof off of MSG in January. By the summertime, he was the most hated man in wrestling history. Just a few months later, Reign of Terror kicks in. He's fucking a corpse in the Katie Vick angle, and he is public enemy number 1. Next year, he goes into WrestleMania 19, beats Booker T. Nobody's been more hated than him. Just months after he was shown more love than I've ever seen in the history of the business. So Charlotte, same thing. Triple H has got to know this. Like, fans don't like her, but if I want her to get a babyface reaction, I'm not going to get that if I bring her back and schedule the match for the Royal Rumble, and then we have 4 weeks of Charlotte on TV with Charlotte promos talking to Ronda Rousey. Then we go into the Royal Rumble and Charlotte wins the title. It's not going to get the same reaction. Have her come in on her return, surprise everybody, shock everybody. That's when you're going to get the biggest fan reaction in the audience for that. Even if fans hate Charlotte winning the title, they're probably going to react positively to her showing up and unseating Ronda Rousey, because Ronda Rousey is not very well liked either. And this is one of my favorite scenarios in wrestling, is when a super hated wrestler gets beat by another super hated wrestler, and to watch all these fans try to crawl up their own ass and out the other side trying to figure out what opinion they're supposed to have. It's pretty fun to watch that happen. And I've seen it between these two before. And now with Charlotte winning the title like that, that's probably the best way to maximize your reaction. Do it on her return. And for fans who say, oh, they just do this with Charlotte, it's all about Charlotte. Hey, it's all about Becky too. I was at SummerSlam a year and a half ago. What happened? Same goddamn thing. Becky was gone for a year. She was gone for more than a year. She comes back and she wins the championship immediately. So how is her situation any different than Charlotte? How does WWE have a love affair for Charlotte but not Becky? It sounds like they have a love affair for both of them. And they're both Rock and Austin, those two. So they both have had championship victories in similar fashion, where they've come back as a surprise opponent and beat the champion and surprise them. So now Charlotte is your SmackDown Women's Champion. And what does that mean for Ronda Rousey? If you watch how that whole angle was played out last night, it kind of looked like they might have been writing Ronda off of TV or something. But it feels like they might be booking the rematch for Royal Rumble where Charlotte could potentially retain and maybe somebody interferes in that match. Now, WrestlingNews.co has reported a couple of things recently. One of them is regarding John Cena, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the other one is regarding Ronda Rousey. And they're claiming that the original plan of Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch has now been changed to Rhea Ripley and Ronda Rousey. So, okay, I don't take much stock in these random little tidbits because I think everything can change. We're still in 2022 right now, so it's really hard to, set anything in stone for WrestleMania. I think anybody right now, anything going on for Mania is still in the discussion stages, aside from a couple of the really big matches. Maybe some of this stuff isn't quite figured out yet, but if they have decided to go with Ripley and Rousey, how do you get to Ripley and Rousey? This could be the first step on that path, because you could do this lots of different ways. Rousey and Ripley means either Charlotte has chased Rousey away from SmackDown and she's going to turn up on Raw now, or it means Ripley and the Judgment Day come harass Rey Mysterio on SmackDown and become SmackDown people. And then you can have Rhea Ripley versus Rousey. Or you can wait and do all this later at the Royal Rumble. So my thought is, if you're going to do Ripley and Rousey, okay, let's hypothetically say that's WWE's plan. Even if it's not, let's say that it is. How do you get to that? I think the best way to get to that is to book a rematch between Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair at the Royal Rumble and have Rhea Ripley interfere or something like that in the match. I don't know why Rhea Ripley would interfere in that match. Maybe something has to happen. Let's say, here's an idea. Let's say you book next week or whenever, Rousey's pissed. Charlotte, you got lucky. You beat me after I had a grueling match with a monster. Yeah, sure. But let's see if you can beat me one-on-one. And how about you give me a title shot at the Royal Rumble and you set that match up there. Then in the meantime, let's say Judgment Day shows up on SmackDown to fuck with Rey Mysterio or something. And they're messing with Rey. Well, then maybe that feels like Charlotte would have to get involved there. Somehow Ripley has a confrontation with Rousey somehow. And that's the thing that doesn't make any sense about Ripley and Rousey. Ripley is a heel and Rousey is a heel. If you put Ripley and Rousey together, Ripley is going to be an overwhelming babyface. So again, this story is like, okay, if they're going to do Ripley and Rousey, they got a long way to go. That means maybe Rousey's got to be a babyface, or Judgment Day has to turn heel or turn babyface. But how's that going to happen? Dominic, and Rhea Ripley are not going to be babyfaces right now. They are giving us Eddie and Chyna vibes. They are so fun. Let them do that. I think it would be hard at this point to get to Rhea and Rousey because they're both heels. But if you are going to do that, like I said, I would book Rousey and Charlotte at the Royal Rumble in a SmackDown title rematch, and then have Ripley interfere or something like that. It costs Ronda the match. Charlotte retains. Ronda can now focus her energy on Rhea Ripley. Maybe one of these women go into the Royal Rumble or something. Maybe Ripley wins the Rumble and Ronda is champion, and they're going to do that. That means Ronda either wins the belt back from Charlotte or she goes to Raw and wins the title or something. And if you do Ripley and Ronda, but again, it's still a heel match. How do you get there? So maybe you do that. You set it up during the rematch of Ronda and Charlotte. Because if Ronda went into that match as champion, Ripley interfered, Ronda dropped the title, you wouldn't be able to move right into those two, to Ripley and Ronda. I don't think. You would think that Ronda would still want to get another crack at Charlotte, try to win her belt back, but she's already dropped the belt. So now the Royal Rumble can be this other crack, and then Ripley can have something to do with it there that takes their feud into WrestleMania, or it can be a Royal Rumble thing. We've seen that too. Some of these women might be doing double duty. It's really hard to come up with enough women to do a women's Royal Rumble. So Rousey, Charlotte, Ripley, even if they're in championship matches at the Royal Rumble, they might also be involved in the Royal Rumble itself. That's how Becky won it, right? Didn't Becky lose the title match to Asuka and then won the Rumble later? Something like that could go down. Or if you are going to do Ripley and Rousey, then that confrontation happens in the Rumble. One of them eliminates the other. But I'm not really into the Ripley and Rousey idea. I'm into it in terms of Rousey putting Rhea Ripley over, sure, but I feel like they got a long way to go to get there. I'm much more interested in Ripley and Charlotte, or Ripley and Bianca first, because I think Ripley owes Charlotte one. I would love to see Ripley win the Royal Rumble and challenge Charlotte for the title. And we get that match we didn't get at WrestleMania 37, or we did. We just got it in the Performance Center. But I remember the build to that being so fun for the NXT title, the deal they did with Ripley going to the Tampa Bay Stadium and standing in the football field and looking around and visualizing what it's going to be like when that place is packed with 80,000 people watching her wrestle Charlotte. I would love to get that back. I really would. So I feel like Ripley should have wins planned against all of them in my mind. I mean, I always thought you could do Ripley and Bianca. I think you keep Ripley on Raw and you just build to Ripley and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, and Ripley beats Bianca for the title, maybe on night one as a heel. But because I still think there's plenty of time for Ripley to revisit her issues with Charlotte, because the next time those two come together, I think it's going to be a whole different game being played than it was back in 2020. So that will be interesting. Rousey, if she's going to be leaving soon, I don't know what's going on with her. If WrestleMania is when she's going to be wrapping things up with the company, or if, God forbid, she has re-signed, I'm fine with Rousey going away forever after WrestleMania. I don't ever need to see her again in wrestling. I just simply do not like her anymore. I used to be Team Rousey during her first run, but her return run has been nothing but a pile of smelly garbage, and I have not liked any of it, and I just have no interest in seeing her in the company anymore. So if she's going to be wrapping up business, it would be awesome to see Rousey put over her buddy Shayna Baszler, put over Ripley, put over anybody she needs to put over, but specifically, you should use Rousey's name and what it means to beat a name like Rousey on somebody who could really use this victory. That's why I'm happy that Charlotte got the win that she got. She got the roll-up win, quick pin over Ronda, a lot like how Liv Morgan beat her for the title when she cashed in her Money in the Bank, and it wasn't just a straight-up clean win. Save that for a Ripley or a Bianca or somebody like, or Shayna Baszler. Would love to see that happen. Maybe a loser leaves WWE I Quit match at WrestleMania between Baszler and Ronda. You could do that, or Ripley and Ronda, or whatever you want to do. Would love to see Rousey put people over on her way out, and then just stay gone. We'll see we don't even know what Rousey's plans are, if Ronda enjoys being in WWE, if she's just working the rest of this contract so she can get out of the business. We don't know. She might love it and want to stay there for another 5 years. Don't know. But the Rousey and Ripley rumor seems weird, and it seems like they have a lot of work to do to get to that. And I don't know how they're going to achieve that, at least from where we sit right now, still in 2022. By the way, Happy New Year to Jimmy Anderson in Sweden, who's crossing over and in 2023 right now. Happy New Year to you. Here we are back here in 2022. All right, what's next on my list? We got to talk about John Cena. Last night on SmackDown, we also saw the return of John Cena in the ring. Dude waited until December 30th to have a match in 2022. How crazy is that? Of course, it was John Cena and Kevin Owens teaming up to take on the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. Roman and Sami weren't really putting it over very hard during the show. Roman said it was an easy night off for the two of them, and it'll take him no trouble at all to beat these two guys. And of course, that would not be the case. Cena showed up, looked to still be in great Cena shape. However, there was a very noticeable glare on the TV screen coming from that big shiny bald spot that John Cena is now sporting. I don't know how a guy has so much hair and so little hair at the same time. But as somebody who went through that at a much younger age than John Cena, bro, there ain't no shame in shaving your head. And Cena, when he's done the crew cut and stuff before when he was younger, it looked good on him. So I think Cena could probably pull it off. Maybe not a completely chrome dome like myself. He can't pull off the Austin or the Mean Gene like I can. But I think if he just shaved it or buzzed it or something, it might look a little bit better than what he does. I think AEW should produce Millionaire Trips skits where it shows John Cena using like the spray on hair, like Savage, like the Nacho Man. And that would be a lot of fun if they did that. But I'm just clowning Cena. I like Cena a lot. I've always had Cena's back. I've always rebelled against the Cena hate because I always thought the Cena hate was ridiculous. So I've always, been a Cena defender throughout the years. It's nice to not have him around so much, but it's also nice when he returns. And now, like I said, all the way back on this podcast 12 years ago, all you kids bitching and screaming and snot coming out of your mouth and nose and shitting on your hands and throwing it all out of this anger over John Cena winning matches, you're going to grow up and realize that he wasn't that bad. And now I'm being proven right on that. So a lot of fans have lightened their stance on Cena. Now it's kind of cool to see him back because he is a legend, bald spot or not, and he can still work. He was in there doing his Cena tackles and his 5 knuckle shuffles. As a matter of fact, we got a double knuckle shuffle from Owens and Cena to Sami and Roman Reigns. In the end, Sami took that and a Stone Cold Stunner from Kevin Owens and took the pin for his team, giving the babyfaces the win. Owens got a major black eye during this match. Big puffed up left eye there, or right eye on him. So hopefully he's okay there. But it was a pretty fun match. You could even see after the match, Owens mouthed to Cena, "Thank you," and they celebrated together. And then after the match, Cena cut a promo for the audience, thanking them and acknowledging that he nearly missed having a match in 2022. Would have been the only year of his career where he didn't have a match, but then he found out that SmackDown is in his backyard, so he made the trip and made the match and was able to get one match in 2022 in the nick of time. And this now makes us wonder what John Cena's plans are going to be for WrestleMania. Now, this appearance last night on SmackDown was just a one-off. He was just doing it for that. I don't think he's going to be a part of this Owens and Sami and Bloodline stuff going forward, but it's possible he could return for the Royal Rumble if they can work it out, and it sounds like they do have a match planned for him at WrestleMania. And we had another report by WrestlingNews.co, or is it Wrestling.co, over on the Twitters, and they have a website, and they have reported some accurate stuff recently. They're the same ones that are reporting that the plan is to now go with Ripley and Ronda at WrestleMania, which I really think is going to be hard to do. But the other WrestleMania match that is penciled in is going to be John Cena against Logan Paul. So John Cena and Logan Paul for WrestleMania. I think this match would be fine, but I also think that it's not going to be any better than what we got from Roman Reigns and Logan Paul. So I'm almost like kind of on the fence about how I feel about this one. On one hand, it does make a lot of sense because if John Cena is going to be busy with his life, if John Cena is going to be busy with his movie career and he's going to have a full schedule prior to WrestleMania and a full schedule after, he's not going to be able to be here to do anything too major anyway. So if you're going to put Cena on the card, you're probably going to want him in an attraction match, although I also think utilizing Cena in a way where he just works with a young guy and puts him over could also work, but I still think that's coming. There's a big part of me that still believes that before John Cena never wrestles again, he will win the WWE title one more time. And when he does, he will put someone over, and hopefully that person will be somebody who can really benefit from a win over someone like Cena. So I'm still holding out that that's in the future. Even though Cena's getting up there in age, he's not that old. He can still wrestle for a few more years, and he's not as old as The Rock, who's rumored to have a match this year as well. So if it does turn out to be Cena and Logan Paul, I'm sure the match will be good. It'll put Logan Paul in the ring with another major star. It's going to get all sorts of global publicity, this match, probably even more so than his match with Roman at Crown Jewel, because this is in the ring at WrestleMania, which is a bigger show, and it's against Cena, an arguably bigger name in the world. Roman's the biggest wrestling star right now, but I think Cena has that household name, vibe over Roman. Not everybody knows who Roman Reigns is, but most people know who John Cena is. So I think Cena and Logan could look great on the marquee. I think the match would be a lot of fun, especially if they tied in other things to this. If you added some outside components, or you had some run-ins, or Cena had some backup or whatever, that could be a lot of fun, and it could put a match on the marquee. But I'm only okay with Cena and Logan Paul if Cena truly is really, really busy and he's basically just squeezing WrestleMania into his schedule. If he's just squeezing it in, yeah, fuck it, work with Logan Paul, who cares? But if Cena's available, like if he's available from Rumble to Mania, I want to see Cena in an angle. I want to see him in a storyline. So that's why I think Cena probably isn't likely to be a fixture on TV again until WrestleMania, unless they can work him out for the Royal Rumble somehow, or if he's an entrant at a surprise appearance in the Royal Rumble and maybe gets thrown out by Logan Paul. I mean, what's Logan Paul's deal with his legs and shit? He blew out his knees or whatever in the Roman Reigns match. If he's okay to appear in the Royal Rumble, you could set up Cena and Logan Paul in the Royal Rumble. And last week I laid out this beautiful scenario to have not only John Cena in the Royal Rumble, but also The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Theoretically, that could happen, and have all of them in the Rumble together. at the same time. That would be real fun. But Cena and Logan Paul, however you set that up, it's probably going to be pretty easy. It's mostly going to be set up, I would imagine, on social media and via video promos and shit like that they're posting on each other, because Cena and Logan are both very, very busy outside of WWE, and their build, much of it, will be outside of WWE. Owens and Stone Cold Steve Austin did a lot of their build that way too last year, and I think Cena and Logan would be a lot of the same. Sure, you'd have an in-ring segment or two. You would definitely have a contract signing and things like that on Raw or wherever they're going to put this, whatever brand they're going to put this angle on. So I think you'll have that, but largely the build is going to be a lot of trash talking online, on social media, a lot of posting of videos, a lot of taunting. Logan Paul probably dressing as John Cena and making fun of him, and Cena may be doing the same. And he's going to set out to teach this kid a lesson, and he probably will, although having Logan beat John Cena, man, shit. I mean, honestly, I might do it, I think. I think I would do it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But good to see John Cena back last night for one match before 2022 drew to its close. But if he does come back next year and he does work a match at WrestleMania, hopefully he can be sporting a little bit shorter hairstyle or something. He might have to have his hair specific lengths for whatever movie projects he's in the middle of, so it might not just be as easy as him just shaving his head. But if he's able to and he's not doing anything and he's got a few months off, give it a try. Get a Wardlow, you borrow his. He might be doing the same thing come next week. The other major thing that we saw take place last night was the Uncle Howdy attack on Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt, of course, is involved right now and embroiled in his feud with LA Knight. And this whole thing is weird too, because I love seeing LA Knight as this character. I think he's so great. He's so entertaining. He's so good on the mic. But what's hard to wrap my head around about this angle is that LA Knight is the heel and Wyatt is the baby face, but it's really hard to understand that when you're watching these promos. And last night, it was more of the same. Wyatt telling LA Knight, you don't know who I am. I could end you like that, but I let this charade continue. And he's talking a bunch of shit, and then the lights go out, and we see Uncle Howdy come to the entranceway, to the ramp, and he starts making his way to the ring. Now, we saw Uncle Howdy a couple times before on the stage where he was just standing there. This Uncle Howdy looks a little bit different. He's no longer wearing the hat, and the mask is also a little bit different, and he's got really long, kind of gray, silverish looking hair. Not so much dreads, but hair. And he then gets in the ring and stands right next to Bray Wyatt. So it's Wyatt on one side and Howdy right next to him. And I was looking, I'm like, it feels like there's one more person that could be standing next to Bray Wyatt. That was the first thing I thought. I'm like, oh my God, now there's two, soon there's going to be three. But before I could even complete that thought in my head, Uncle Howdy grabs Bray Wyatt and hits him with Sister Abigail, taking him out. LA Knight looks surprised. I think he runs away or something. And Uncle Howdy took out Bray Wyatt. So what does this mean? I think it can mean a lot of things. First of all, Uncle Howdy now is sporting a different look, right? He's got a different mask and different hair. Now, why did they do that? Was that planned, or did they decide to change it up? Because if you remember, we heard about the original trademarks filed for the Bray Wyatt angle. One of them was Uncle Howdy. The other one was Uncle Harper. So, could it be that Uncle Howdy is still the original Uncle Howdy and who we saw last night is Uncle Harper or something? Or maybe they're all kind of like one and the same. And I have so many questions here and so many ideas of how this could go, and a couple of, maybe a storyline pitch even. But based on what we saw last night, I think it can go a lot of two ways. I saw a lot of fans, and usually my opinion of things when you have a wrestler whose identity is hidden, the higher power, or, anybody like that, whenever you see this person on TV in any sort of cloak or costume, it could really be anybody under there. You don't really have to judge the silhouette, because whoever's playing Uncle Howdy on that day might not be who Uncle Howdy is at the end. But now we're seeing Uncle Howdy in the ring taking bumps. And now I kind of believe that whoever that person is in the Uncle Howdy costume will be that person. So I do believe it's okay. We should be judging the person in the ring. I feel like that could be the real, actual Uncle Howdy. And a lot of people were bringing up Edge. I still think that would be a stretch. for Edge to come back and be Uncle Howdy, and all this stuff happens within the course of a year, because last August when they were in Toronto, Edge cut that promo in front of his hometown crowd saying, in a perfect world, this is where I would like to retire. 1 year later, 1 year from now, in this very building, he's going to have to do a lot of stuff to become Uncle Howdy and then get back to being Edge by the time he retires. I don't think it's going to be Edge. What I think is most likely is that it is Vincent. And Vincent and Dutch from Ring of Honor were rumored to come in. And, Dutch even kind of stands like this, how Uncle Howdy does or whatever. So I kind of think that Uncle Howdy and Uncle Harper is going to wind up being Vincent and Dutch. That's kind of my guess based on how all this looks. You could also, throw Bo Dallas's name in there. Would love to see him be involved. It could have definitely been Bo Dallas, who was Uncle Howdy last night. I just don't think so. And it really makes me wonder where Uncle Harper is, and if perhaps Uncle Howdy and Uncle Harper are one and the same, or even if they reveal who we saw last night was Uncle Harper. And I've got an idea for maybe what they're doing here with Bray Wyatt. Like, Bray Wyatt seemed to be surprised by the attack of Uncle Howdy last night. He didn't see it coming because he was standing there with him, right? And then last week, he attacked that cameraman, and I believe he did that because during his promo, when he brought up Uncle Howdy, it was almost like he lost his train of thought, or he couldn't put the words together. Something was stopping him. There was some force that was stopping him, and he just kind of snapped and he attacked the cameraman. So what I think it would be cool, now that we've seen Uncle Howdy next to Bray Wyatt, and we've seen that these are supposedly two separate people, I would love to see Uncle Howdy come out there maybe by himself 1 week or something, and then they reveal that Uncle Howdy is Bray Wyatt. Maybe LA Knight or somebody gets their hand on the mask. They pull it off, and we can clearly see it's Bray Wyatt. Well, wait a minute. How is it Bray Wyatt? Because we've seen Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt together. So if Bray Wyatt is Uncle Howdy, who was playing Uncle Howdy when Bray Wyatt was in the ring? And so maybe it's revealed that Bray Wyatt is Uncle Howdy, and then he seems a little bit confused. And then the next week on TV, Wyatt's cutting a promo, and he goes, look, yes, I am Uncle Howdy. I was Uncle Howdy, but you have to believe me. I don't have any recollection and no memory of how I got put in the Uncle Howdy mask. I have no recollection of what made me do these things. As a matter of fact, I don't even know who the Uncle Howdy is that's in the ring with me. And maybe Bray makes it his life mission to find out, because something's going on with Bray. Somebody has control over him that's making him lose time, that's making him lose his memory. So where if it's revealed that he's Uncle Howdy, he can claim that he has no memory of how he got in the Uncle Howdy mask. He has no memory of how he got to the building. And then when somebody asks him, well, who was the Uncle Howdy that attacked you? He can say, I have no idea. I have no idea who's doing this to me. Somebody's messing with me. Somebody's messing with my head, and I don't know how to escape it. They're making me do things that I don't want to do, and they're basically hypnotizing me, or something, and putting me under and making me do all these horrible things. And trust me, I want help. I want out, but I don't know how to find these guys, and maybe he makes it his mission to find Uncle Harper and Uncle Howdy, who are clearly pulling the strings here and making Wyatt do these things. And then maybe at the end of that, it's revealed like this is I forgot that movie. Was a fucking movie with some crazy mental patient, and I don't even know. And in the end, it was revealed that he was the killer or something like that, and he drives away. Something like that, to where, all of this is maybe going on in Wyatt's head or something. I mean, they'd have to get really extreme here if they want to go in this direction. I'm trying to think of it in terms of a movie, and then all of this is going on, and then it's like revealed that everything we've been seeing on TV has just been a figment of Bray's imagination. Again, I don't know what the payoff would be here. I don't know, what the money shot here or what the blow off would even be, or how you would do this. Bray Wyatt getting in the ring and having a match with himself, or if we get some sort of a triple threat with Wyatt and Uncle Howdy and Uncle Harper, and Wyatt has to beat the two of them to return to his former self and banish them forever from the WWE. I don't know how this is going to work, but I do think it would be cool, since it does look like Howdy is messing with Bray. Bray is having difficulty talking about Uncle Howdy. It sounds like there is a control over Bray Wyatt, and somebody else is controlling him doing these things, and they can make him do things that he doesn't want to do. And that's why I think there should be times when he is under the Uncle Howdy mask. And if you do that reveal, well, wait a minute, if Wyatt is Uncle Howdy, who was Uncle Howdy last time? And that could get a lot of fans wondering and speculating, and even Bray Wyatt himself speculating on who is the one or the ones fucking with him. And who knows? Maybe bring Dr. Shelby back in to try to piece all this together. Alexa Bliss could still have something to do with this, don't forget. She's on a completely other show, teasing little things here and there, that she also has some sort of, something going on with Bray Wyatt. Something there is unresolved. What if she is the one that's pulling all these strings? What if she's instructing Uncle Harper and Uncle Howdy to do these things to Bray Wyatt? And the person in charge, the mastermind of this whole scheme is just some little women's wrestler on Raw on the other show. That would be really interesting too. So I think that they have a lot of these things figured out. They know what they're doing. And it feels like we're going to maybe start accelerating a little bit on this storyline now, because it feels like it has been stalling out a little bit. But last night it showed me something very interesting, and it was when Uncle Howdy got in the ring and he stood next to Bray Wyatt. And when I saw Wyatt next to Uncle Howdy, it just felt like there was supposed to be somebody on the other side. And I think that might be what we see at the Mountain Dew pitch black match at the Royal Rumble, because it has been officially announced in that match, in that promo with LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. They challenged for Royal Rumble, and then later on in the show, they announced it was official: Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight in a Mountain Dew pitch black match. Now, the reason it's a Mountain Dew pitch black match is because Mountain Dew is releasing some black soda or something. Ugh, fuck that shit. They already have red and purple and every other damn color Mountain Dew. Why not black? So they're using this as a whole way to cross-promote and advertise this Mountain Dew pitch black with this pitch black match, and that's what we're going to have at the Royal Rumble. So what is a pitch black match? I don't know. I assume it's a match that's completely in the fucking dark. I would probably hold out for the mellow yellow flashlight match. I think that would be a little bit easier to see, but this is going to be a Mountain Dew pitch black match, and that could be a perfect place to reveal the trio. Because if you're going to have instances or points in the match where it's going to be completely dark, assuming this match is in the ring and it's not a cinematic match, I can't imagine putting all those people in San Antonio and giving them a cinematic match to watch on the screen. It's not the pandemic. So I feel like whatever they're going to do in the ring with people hidden under the ring that are going to appear when the lights go out or whatever. And I don't know how this match is going to be booked. I would assume a pitch black match is going to have increments of light, like some light is shed for 10 seconds at a time. You only get 10 seconds with the light and then the lights go back out or something like that. And, when they come back on at some point in the match, you can see Wyatt standing with both Uncle Harper and Uncle Howdy at some point in that match. That's probably where I would do that type of reveal, if they're going to do that. But again, this is all speculation. This is all just me guessing of what kind of direction they could go in with Bray Wyatt. But at the end of the day, it definitely feels like this is some sort of internal struggle with himself. Then he's trying to exorcise these demons, and he's got a lot of problems, and he's got a lot of demons, and they are chasing him everywhere. And I think Bray Wyatt could be one of the first guys to have a successful feud with himself. And we'll see how that goes for Mr. Wyatt. Let me know if you guys have any ideas on the Bray Wyatt ideas. I hope they use a Mountain Dew bottle as a weapon. Yeah, if it's filled with rocks. I don't know how much damage that could do. Sonic Plays. Good to see Reese Jones, 4-month channel member in here. After what they did at Extreme Rules, you would have thought that the obvious match for Ripley would have been something with Beth Phoenix. Yeah, me too. And I don't think the Beth Phoenix issue is completely done. I think that Phoenix will return to do something with her, but I just assumed that Phoenix would come in and put Rhea Ripley over. And I think that could potentially still happen at some point. They could even do a Royal Rumble match with Ripley and Beth Phoenix, and then they both enter the Royal Rumble as well. Or you could just blow off that whole situation in the Royal Rumble. That would also be a really good way to do it without having to book a match actually on pay-per-view. So what I would do, Reese, is I would have Ripley in the Rumble, cleaning house. She's in there all by herself, and then Beth Phoenix comes out. That's what you do. And then those women just beat the shit out of each other there. hell, maybe even Beth Phoenix can eliminate Ripley or something like that, and Ripley can still find a way to get a championship shot at WrestleMania. That's still very possible. So Ripley doesn't have to win the Rumble or anything, but it would be cool if she did, and it would be cool even if she eliminated Beth Phoenix. Whatever Beth Phoenix comes in to do, I don't think it should be to beat Rhea Ripley. I think she's too hot, and she's being pushed hard, and I wouldn't have a legend beat her right now. I would have her beating other people. So eventually they're going to have to circle back to that Beth Phoenix thing, but I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. We are Pro Wrestling in the house. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Cena versus KO at Mania? Maybe. I kind of think it's going to be KO and Sammy against the Usos at WrestleMania. Logan Paul should never be seen again in any wrestling company. I completely disagree. Zane G, appreciate that $10 from you earlier on, man. Thank you so much. Have Ripley win the briefcase. Have Ripley cash in to make a match a triple threat. Or remember the backstage tease between Belair and Ripley. Save that for SummerSlam. That could work. With Ripley, though, if I'm putting the title on her now based on how she's been pushed and used with Judgment Day, I would have that match at WrestleMania. I wouldn't wait beyond that. That would be such a perfect place for Ripley to have that moment, to have that win the championship at WrestleMania. She needs that. I'd rather see her do it there than do a briefcase thing several months later, but I do like your idea for Belair and Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. Faux show, Zane. Xavier Martinez, I want to wish you a happy birthday. How old are you, man? Did I miss a super chat? Did I miss a super chat from Spectra? I don't see it. Unless I'm blind. I could be blind. That is possible. Yeah, Yachiro, good point there. We also heard a lot of the rumors of the Wyatt Six ever since the White Rabbit stuff started. And there was even some Edge references in there too, you know, so I wouldn't, I guess, completely discount the idea that Uncle Howdy could be Edge. I just don't see it. I don't see it. It doesn't make enough sense for me. We are Pro Wrestling. If Cena can do a program for WrestleMania, him versus Theory or him versus Gunther, that is true. You know, Cena, if he's not going to work with Logan Paul, Theory would be an excellent guy for him to work with. But if they did that, I think Theory needs to put him over. As a matter of fact, like I said earlier, in my heart of hearts, I still am not abandoning the idea that John Cena will win another WWE title before he retires. I believe he will. Theory would be an excellent guy for Cena to put over when Cena loses the title. If he comes back, wins one of the championships next year, the year after, and then he has a big pay-per-view, high-profile match defending the title, you know, against Theory, and then Theory beats him, I could see that, and I would actually be okay with it if it happened. Want to talk briefly about Dynamite this past week. They drew in 870,000, got up a lot of bowl games going on there too, and they're right in their normal neighborhood of ratings, so nothing too earth-shattering to talk about there, but we did see, we were up here watching it together on Wednesday night, very good Dynamite show. The Elite evened up the series at 3 matches apiece in a crazy-ass match against the Death Triangle. That thing has been all kinds of fun. This Best of 7 series has not gotten old. I really like them doing kind of a different stip in each and every match. And even though the last 2 matches were incredibly predictable to me, because obviously you want this thing to go 7 matches, and they're already booking that if needed, 7th match on the January 11th Dynamite. They've been saying that for like a couple of weeks. So you knew with match number 7, if necessary, on the 11th Dynamite, you know they're going to want to put that match on there. That's a big show that they've got stacked up for LA. So it was no surprise to me that the Elite won here, but it was still a really good match and a really fun match. A crazy, awesome, hilarious rap on Jeff Jarrett by the Acclaim. Did you hear the announcer? I think it was Taz that said something like that. That was a little stiff or whatever he said about the, little snug, I think he said about the rap, because they were blistering Jeff Jarrett. So fucking crazy. And of course, the main event was very good. Samoa Joe defeating Wardlow for the TNT title. We were all watching this together on Wednesday, and I was kind of speculating throughout the show because we saw the pre-match attack prior to that earlier on in the show on Wardlow's leg by Samoa Joe. He interrupted a interview and he took out Wardlow's leg. So I immediately said during the watch along, I'm like, that means one of two things. That means it either gives them a way to beat Wardlow and keep him strong or kind of protect him a little bit, or it's a way to make him look super strong. He's either going to beat this monster Samoa Joe with one leg, or he now has an excuse and he remains protected in the loss. But they took it way further than I thought. I was under the assumption, and as the show was going on Wednesday, I was predicting Wardlow to win because I was thinking along the lines of AEW and Tony Khan, what they want their final lasting image of the year to be, the final Dynamite of the year and the final Dynamite with that current set as we know it. I thought it would be a cool way to close out the year to see Wardlow, a guy who's already crazy over, a guy who stalled out a little bit by no fault of his own, and a great way to kind of reestablish him and throw him back into the scene is have him beat a monster like Samoa Joe while he's injured, celebrate with confetti falling, and Wardlow closes out the year winning the TNT Championship in AEW. I thought that would be a perfect way to close out Dynamite, but it did not happen. Did not happen at all. The opposite happened, and Samoa Joe was able to choke out Wardlow, choked him unconscious after Wardlow fought hard. I mean, Wardlow's so good, and he's so athletic for a big guy. I mean, this is a guy who's a big monster, but also takes his style from guys like Jeff Hardy. It's just crazy how he can do some of these moves. So he fought his ass off, but in the end, Samoa Joe was too much. Samoa Joe looked like a monster. Even though he got the heel advantage by attacking Wardlow before the match, he still looked very, very dangerous in this match. And that's what I like the most about this Dynamite, is it really felt that Samoa Joe was back. Let's hope, keep our fingers crossed, hope and pray that this guy stays injury-free, because when he is injury-free, he is incredible. And I loved the match. I loved the finish. And what I love the best is after the match, Samoa Joe goes and gets a pair of clippers and he cuts off the man bun of Wardlow. Holy shit. That's some Andre the Giant heat right there. I remember when Andre, as a kid, I remember watching Andre the Giant get bloodied and beaten up and his hair cut. And that's how he went from the long hair to the short hair. And I remember that like traumatizing me. So hopefully there's some little kids in the audience that were traumatized by this experience, because it's good character building stuff for kids to go through. So hopefully if you are a big Wardlow fan, you were freaked out on Wednesday to watch him get beaten up badly and get his hair cut off. So I like this because it made Samoa Joe look like a fucking monster. And this is going to piss off Wardlow. I'm sure he's going to come back. I'm really interested to see what he's going to look like now, if he's just going to go with a short shaved cut or whatever, or if he's going to try to grow his hair back out. I don't really think the man bun worked for him, as a big powerhouse. So it's probably best that he lost it anyway. And having Joe cut it off like that is amazing. I can't wait for us to get that same scenario in WWE with Bianca Belair's ponytail, or braid, or whatever you call it. So Samoa Joe cut off the hair of Wardlow. He retains the TNT title. The show goes off the air with Samoa Joe being an asshole, and you got to love that. So we'll see now. Wardlow obviously is going to be pissed off. I think he's going to be gunning for Samoa Joe. And now the next time they face, I think Wardlow needs to win the title, unless they just want to keep Wardlow away from the TNT title and give somebody else a shot with it. So maybe Wardlow does something like what I would do if I'm AEW, if Tony Khan's like, I want to push Wardlow again, but he's already been TNT champion, and if I put the belt on him, he's going to have to be unbeatable for a while, and that's going to kind of, tie up the belt, and I want to move it on to somebody else. So they could always have Wardlow. I would book a match between Samoa Joe and Hobbs. I would book a match between Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs, and I would have Wardlow interfere, cost Samoa Joe the championship. Hobbs is your new TNT champion, and now Samoa Joe and Wardlow can continue their issue, and that TNT title is somewhere else. Maybe even Wardlow could go to Ring of Honor and beat Joe there for the TV title. I don't know. And now Joe's lost both of his belts. But if Wardlow isn't going to beat Joe for the title, I would have Wardlow interfere in a Joe championship match, costing him the title and allowing them, the two of them, to then have a no DQ or falls count anywhere, or lights out. I would do lights out in that scenario. If Wardlow costs Joe the TNT championship against somebody else, I would book Samoa Joe and Wardlow lights out on a big Dynamite. That's what I would do. So that was all great on Wednesday night. Really, really loved the final Dynamite of the year. Dynamite's been great in its 3 years, man. I mean, AEW's had its ups and downs, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the quality of wrestling that I've been given as a fan on Wednesdays, I've been happy 90% of the time, and that's a very good feeling as a wrestling fan, so props to AEW for that. Next week, we have Chris Jericho taking on Ricky Starks, or this coming Wednesday, I should say. Jericho taking on Ricky Starks. Danielson taking on Tony Nese. And it looks like we've got Jade Cargill in some tag action. And, of course, we have the new set. Now, January 4th is also going to be Wrestle Kingdom. I think Wrestle Kingdom is going to happen the night before, so will I have to... Shit. I'm trying to think. I guess late Tuesday night ahead of ahead of Dynamite is when Wrestle Kingdom will air. Do I have that right? Fucking help me out. Anyway, Wednesday is January 4th, and of course, that is a big date in wrestling history. It's always the date of Wrestle Kingdom, right? And it's also historic because it was the day that Mick Foley, Mankind, beat The Rock for the WWE title. Granted, it was taped in December the previous year. It didn't air on Raw until January 4th. And that was the same night as the Finger Poke of Doom. And then many years later, January 4th would be the night that Raw and Impact went head-to-head, and the new Monday Night Wars started for about an hour and a half until TNA waved the white flag and went away. And it was also the night of the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels reconciliation from 2010 that is now 13 years old. Think about that. The same amount of time that passed between the screw job and Bret and Shawn's makeup is the same amount of time between Bret and Shawn's makeup and now. Holy shit, man. That's mind-blowing to say out loud, but it's true. So that's coming up this week on January 4th. And, of course, 1 week later after that, January 11th, LA Forum. I will be there, so hit me up if you are going. It's going to be Moxley taking on Hangman Page. We've got match number 7 in the Elite and Death Triangle series. We've got Saraya's mystery partner, which is likely going to be Mercedes Moné, and a whole bunch of other great shit going down on that show as well, which will also be a Rampage taping. And speaking of Rampage, didn't see a minute of it last night. Completely missed it. Have no idea what happened on the show. So I apologize for that. That is the end of my notes. So let's go over here to the chat, see if you guys have anything else interesting to say, and then I'm going to get out of here. You know what I would really love? That thumbs up button, man. Can you get me up to like 80 before I close off here? It would be really helpful. Thank you, guys. Hook me up with the thumbs up button. What else are you guys saying about what I've been talking about? When Big Bubba cut off half of the hair of the shark. It's going to be Darby versus Joe. Yeah, it is. I forgot about that, Yachiro. Good reminder. Thank you for that. I completely forgot that at the end of that, Darby came and tried to make the save. He hit Samoa Joe with the skateboard. It was a little weird. I didn't even think they needed that Darby run-in. I think the show could have just ended with Joe doing what he did. But yes, good call there. It's probably not going to be Will Hobbs. It's probably going to be Darby. So that's what I would do. I would book Darby and Samoa Joe for the TNT title. Wardlow costs Samoa Joe the championship. Darby has got the TNT title once again. And then Samoa Joe and Wardlow can do a lights-out match on Dynamite to blow off their feud. That's what you do. That's what you do. Good one. All right. WCW was still on fire in early 99. I wouldn't say fire. I mean, they were doing all right. I mean, they were in the Georgia Dome for that finger poke, but man, they were so far behind. They had no shot by that point. I felt like they were already done. Nick Steele, Happy New Year to you, man, and everybody else. Godzilla fan forever. Everybody else has been wishing Happy New Year's to me. Same to you, man. Greg, what if Roman retains at Mania? Man, King Asa, that's a whole nother set of circumstances there because Roman, there's been rumors of him dropping one of the belts. We've heard rumblings of that now all of a sudden. Oh, maybe he is going to drop one of the belts prior to WrestleMania, allowing us to have 2 World Championship matches, and you can do a lot more with that. We've got Cody coming back soon. I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw Cody like on Monday or something because he did do an interview on the Year in Review show where he said that his focus has not changed. And when he's coming back, he's targeting the WWE Championship. So it sounds like they may have to book something with Roman dropping one of the belts. Now, given the fact that Sammy took the pin last night, it makes me feel like he's about to get his Joe Pesci Goodfellas moment here pretty soon where they're going to whack him. But maybe it takes one more. Maybe he does something really fucked up like costs Roman one of his championships. And if he does that, he's probably going to be murdered on sight. So we'll have to see how they do that and how exactly they book and execute something like having Roman drop one of these titles. And how do you even make that happen? It's probably going to have to be a Royal Rumble thing. I just don't know how they're going to make that happen. I don't know how they're going to factor all of that in. Elimination Chamber in Montreal is going to be another big show because that's going to be, I guarantee you, in Elimination Chamber, Owens and Sammy and the Usos or Roman, some combination of the Bloodline and Owens will be in there, and maybe the Sammy split has already happened by then, putting Sammy in the chamber, and that would be another good spot for Roman to drop one of the belts. Like, I would stick him in there, where they make a ruling that he's got to defend the titles in the Elimination Chamber. That's what I would do. Then Paul Heyman says, no. Are you fucking crazy? He's your double champion. He's been undefeated for 3 years. You're going to put him in this match and put both of his championships in jeopardy. Both of these titles that he's held for so long, you're willing to take them off of him in an unfair situation where he's in the ring with 5 other guys, and then maybe Adam Pearce or Triple H or whatever makes a compromise. Okay, fine. Just the WWE title is on the line. Or just the Universal title, depending on what belt you want to have him keep. I would probably have him drop the WWE so he can continue running with his 3-year Universal run. But you do it that way, put him in the Elimination Chamber, tell him he's got to defend both titles, and then Paul Heyman says, fuck that, and then they work out some sort of a compromise to where only one of his championships are on the line, and then maybe you have Sammy win it somehow. I don't know. I don't know what you can do. There's a million different things you can do. I just talked about that famous Rock and Mankind match from January 4th. I've laid out that scenario before. Once the split happens with the Bloodline and Sammy, much like it did with Corporation and Mankind, you've got a dejected Mankind, a Mick Foley who's been booted out of his family, and then he has that match with The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out and helps him win. You can do the same match with Sammy and Roman, except instead of Austin coming down with the chair, it's Kevin Owens. He cracks Roman in the face with a chair, and Sammy lays on top of him. The ref counts to 3. The fans go nuts. And instead of Stone Cold flipping off Vince, it's Kevin Owens flipping off Paul Heyman. And Sami Zayn is your new WWE champion. That would be so great. There's so many things they can do. It's almost impossible to predict, which is good. You don't want anything that you can see coming. That's why when people say, oh, it's definitely going to be Edge. Edge is Uncle Howdy. What makes you so sure about that? Why in the world would you be so confident that that's the case? So I really like it when things are a little bit harder to figure out and a little bit harder to predict, because that shows us that there are many different potential paths on our road to WrestleMania and through the Royal Rumble, and a lot of different things that they can do, as we have laid out here in this podcast. So that's when it's the most fun, is when you have lots of options, different ways you can do things, and just have some fun with it. And we will see how WrestleMania season goes under the booking pencil of Triple H, because in recent years, WrestleMania season has not been that great. I can remember many times where I've been up here during a podcast being like, man, it's WrestleMania season, but it sure doesn't feel like it. How many times have we said that? To where a lot of these Raws on these TVs leading up to WrestleMania in recent years, pandemic aside, haven't been that good and haven't really given you that WrestleMania season feeling. So I would really like to see Triple H make the best of Mania season, give us a kick-ass Rumble, and give us amazing build between Rumble and WrestleMania with that very interesting Montreal Elimination Chamber right in the middle. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what PL does. PL is short for Paul Levesque. We got TK, we got PL. That's what I think anyway. So that is going to be it. I think that's going to do it. I've got just enough time here to sign off and then get ready to go down to work for a crazy New Year's Eve night at my restaurant. It's going to be bonkers, probably. So I'm going to go do that and ring in the new year. You guys have a great rest of your night. Hey, Chris FX. Good to see you, man. How have you been? Chris has been a watcher for many years on this channel. But good to see you chiming in at the very end. I want to thank all of you. And Michael Kumo as well. Good to see you, channel member, chiming in here as well. Happy to see you there. So it'll be Charlotte versus Ronda 3 at the Royal Rumble. Probably, yeah, it will. And I see no problem with that. That's kind of the match you have to have unless you do it on TV ahead of that. But I think the Charlotte and Ronda match is going to be a match you kind of have after you have a victory like that. You can't really avoid it. So fans go, oh, Charlotte and Ronda again. Well, of course, you have to. You can't have Charlotte come back, win the title the way she did, and then expect Ronda's character to be like, okay, I'm cool. No, of course Ronda's going to want another shot. It makes sense. So the fans who say Charlotte and Ronda doesn't make sense, no, not doing it wouldn't make sense. You have to do it. I'm not saying you're saying that. I just know that some fans probably think that Charlotte and Ronda isn't necessary. I'm like, well, then you don't know how wrestling works, because if you watched SmackDown last night, a Charlotte and Ronda match is definitely necessary based on what Charlotte did to her. It's how wrestling is, man. But yeah, I think we are going to get Charlotte and Ronda 3 at the Rumble, and I think Charlotte should find a way to retain. At least I Hope she does. So, yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your evening. Happy New Year to you. Have a great New Year's Eve tonight. Whatever your plans are, just be safe and be responsible and have a good time ringing in the new year. I have a really good feeling I won't have a single drop of alcohol tonight. I'm probably just going to go to work hard, come home, and probably chill out. So not a lot of partying going on for me tonight either. I'm going to save that for tomorrow with my family. And tonight's going to be a pretty chill New Year's Eve for me. So whatever you guys are up to, I hope it's a great one. I hope it's fun. Happy New Year. Thank you for another amazing year on the channel, by the way. You guys, no matter what the channel does in terms of performance and views and a lot of the fluctuations we see throughout the years, I've always had my core audience. You guys are great, and I can't thank you enough for giving me yet another year on this channel. And next year will be the 13-year anniversary of me doing YouTube. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, you guys have a great rest of your day and night. Talk to you real soon. Don't forget, we'll be up here Monday to watch Monday Night Raw together. Have a good rest of your night tonight and have an excellent New Year's Day holiday tomorrow. Enjoy some football. Enjoy some family time, some cocktails, some food, whatever you like to do. Have a good one, and I will catch you Monday.